Okay, so today I want to talk about why do we want money? Why do we work for it? What's good about it? Um, so just a disclaimer, I'm poor as fuck, right? I'm only what, like 21 years old. I just work like a normal job. I don't even work that much. I work like 5 hours a week. Um, and I have no background in business economics, right? I've only ever done maths and engineering. Um, yeah, so take what I say with a grain of salt, but this is like the conclusion that I've come up with from talking with my parents. Um, also just kind of thinking about a bunch of these things. Okay, so and these are my ideals, and a lot of the comments I'm gonna make later are based around these these two things. So first of all, your own life is the most valuable asset to yourself. Um, what I mean by that is, I would personally not trade my life for anything. Um, because I believe it's the most valuable asset to yourself. And the second thing is, generally speaking, your end goal is to be happy or to be fulfilled. No matter what you do, whether it's you wanting to live in the mountains, and if that makes you happy, well then sure. Or if it's being rich or having like a big house with your family. Um, so the end goal, the physical um aspect of like the end goal could be different for everyone, but generally speaking, it's all to be happy. Okay, so why do we want money? The first dot point: why do you want money, and how much do you want? Um, I'll talk about that in the latest slide in more detail. And the second thing that you kind of wonder is why are you making money? Is it for yourself or is it money for your family? Um, and then working for others versus working for yourself. So this is kind of like being an employee or versus owning your own business. And next one, if your family is wealthy, is there really a reason to work? Um, and and your house is on an asset, so that's just the last one. Okay, so this is the first slide. How much money do you want, and why do you want money? So this is like a question you need to ask yourself, right? So like everyone obviously makes a different amount of money, and I think a lot of people will have a different standard on what makes them happy. And for instance, if I ask you how much money do you want, and you tell me, oh, I want as much money as humanly possible. I want like $200 billion. Well, that's just honestly, unless you're one of the very few people, that's just unrealistic. So, realistically, right? If you want to settle on an amount of money, like how much do you want? Obviously, a lot of people would say more is better. So let's just say, okay, let's just take a look at the slides, right? So if you're a fucking starving Ethiopian, even if you get a job at a minimum wage place, like even if you're making like $5 a day, like five, I don't know, like USD a day, um, that will be enough to change your life, right? That will make you infinitely happy. And a lot of these Ethiopians might just be like, oh, you know what? I'm okay with it. I'm okay with making that amount of money. It's changing my life. It's making me really happy. And but okay, but if you want to make more than that, right? This is just like the fucking ghettos. I don't know. Um, you're clearly reliant on more income than those Ethiopians earlier. But like for instance, if an Ethiopian was able to live in this sort of environment, they would be happy, right? But what if this is not good enough for you? And again, this is all based on your personal perceptions, right? Because the Ethiopians would be happy, but would you be happy to live there, right? If you're not, um, at what point are you going to be happy, you know? So what's the next step? Oh, maybe just living in an apartment, right? What's the next step? Having a big house with your family, and then even owning like an actual mansion. So I guess the question is, at which step do you personally want to stop? At which step is it enough for you, right? Because you could always say, oh, once I reach the apartment stage, I wanna live in a house. I wanna live in a big house, four bedroom house with my family. Um, okay, so what if you get there? Are you gonna now want a bigger mansion, right? Because there's always more to want. Uh, yeah, same thing with cars as well. It's just thinking about what kind of cars do you are you comfortable with, owning. So, at one end of the spectrum, you're going to be riding a bicycle your entire life, right? And then, I don't know, maybe like a second-hand Toyota, and then eventually you can afford a new Toyota, and then, I don't know, you maybe go to like the Mercedes, BMW, and then like the better ones, right? Like you look at like $200,000 cars, and then the cars go into the millions. So everyone lies somewhere along the spectrum, right? And yeah, again, the question to ask yourself is, how much money do you realistically want? Because not everyone could make it to the end of the spectrum, right? Most people will just end up somewhere like in the middle of the spectrum. Um, yeah, so that's a question to kind of ask yourself. Why do you even want money in the first place, and how much of it do you want? And this is my next point. So if your family is wealthy already, is there a reason to work? So, for instance, if you're in your parents' position, you would work hard, make a lot of money, and then you would say you're doing this for your family to create a better life for them. And then what if your kids grow up and say, oh, okay, and then yeah, what if your kids actually start to live an easy life? How would you feel about it? Would you just say, oh, they should be working harder than this, or what? So, and I'll give you another example. So that's covering the first dot point, and the second one, your job might be insignificant to your family wealth. For instance, consider Bill Gates, right? Um, he has a daughter. There's no job that the daughter could do that will make a significant change. That will bring about a significant change to the family wealth. Like, even if you make what fucking 500,000 a year, which is a fucking insane amount of money. Like, but the Bill Gates it's nothing. You'll have to work for like 1,000 years to even make a dent, like in how much his family's worth. So, well, what do you do then? Well, just don't work, right? Like, see how sometimes there's no reason to work because you're just so wealthy, right? Um, yeah, that's something I thought was pretty interesting. But before a normal family, obviously, like, if you're able to get a job, um, does it actually make a reasonable impact to your family wealth? For like, even if your family's, I don't know, like not as much as Bill Gates. Like, if it was worth, I don't know, like 20 million, let's say, um, and you worked a job that's paying like six figures, like 150,000. Like, it's a respectable number, but realistically, are you even doing anything? Like, are you even changing anything in your family, right? So that's just another interesting thing that I kind of thought of. This one, this is kind of like a discussion that I had with my parents. And my mom was actually just telling me that um your house, the one that you live in, is actually not an asset. Um, and the reason for that is because if you're living in it, it doesn't actually bring any money in. It generates expense, like all the mortgage you have to pay, right? The electricity, all the bills and stuff. So every single month you live in there, you actually lose money. Um, and assets, I don't know, like, it's it's technically a liability, your house, because you're owning this thing, right, and you're losing money. It's kind of like a car most of the time. Um, and the second thing is, you might think that you're gonna make money if your house price goes up. Like, if your house goes from 700K to 1.5 million, you might think you're making money, but realistically, like, no, you're not making money. And reason for that is, unless you sell the house, you can never realize that capital gain, right? And even if you sell the house, right? So like, okay, let's say you bought it for 700,000, you sell it for 1.5 million. What are you gonna do? It's not like the houses around you aren't going up in price. So if you want to buy another house in the same neighborhood, it's gonna cost you 1.5 million, right? So unless you move to a like, move somewhere completely different where the house price didn't go up as much, um, your your house price going up just literally does not matter, right? It does matter in what case? It does matter in the sense that if you own an investment property, right, and it's not your primary residence, and you could just sell it, then that's gonna make you money. But if you live there, and yeah, if you live there, it just doesn't make you any money. And even if the house price goes up, you don't actually make any profit. Um, hope that makes sense because I feel like a lot of people will actually think it's like, oh, I'm a fucking real estate investor because I own my house, right? And it's going up in price. But really, yeah, unless you want to sell it and live somewhere else, you're not gonna turn a profit. Or at least if you want to fucking like rent your house out, rent your basement out to someone, it's not gonna generate like a monthly income. And I know I said cars are generally a liability, but I don't. They could technically be an asset as well. So like, let's say if you bought a Lamborghini, right, and you rented it out every single day, made like I don't know, you make $500 a day on average. Um, if it's outpacing the uh like the depreciation and all the maintenance and insurance costs, then yeah, it's an asset. So yeah, cars don't have to be liabilities. Yeah, is this the last slide? I have no idea. Working for others versus working for yourself. So it's kind of like being employed versus um owning a business. So working for others, I guess, is a choice that almost like most people will actually pick, right? Whether it's yeah, it's literally just finding a job and then working that job for the rest of your life. Um, like on the internet, you might be tempted to think that it's a really bad option. Um, I mean, it's not wrong. There is some truth in thinking that being employed isn't that great compared to owning your own business, but having employees that work is still essential for society to function. Not everyone could be entrepreneurs. That's just not how it works. So, first things first. Working for others. What is the benefit? First of all, there's no risk, right? You show up to work, you do what you're told, you go home, you get paid. Um, you don't need to worry about anything really. You just the only thing you need to worry about is doing your job properly. Just do what you're told. Um, because there is another dot point on the other side that says there's risk. Since if you own your business, you carry the risk of not making money, sometimes even losing, right? As an employee, you never have to worry about losing money, because for business owners, you might be working like 40 hours or 50 hours a week, or full time, and still lose fucking like half a million every single year. Um, that could not happen with employees. You show up and you know you will make money for like the amount of time you're there. Um, and even if the company goes bankrupt, right? You just leave. Like you just find another one. It doesn't really matter to you. Whereas if you own the business, and it goes bankrupt, well, you're kind of fucked, right? You just lose a shit ton of money. You don't lose nothing. You don't just stop there. You don't, yeah, you get what I mean. You don't just lose zero money. You lose a fucking certain amount of money. Like you go into the negatives. Whereas in an employee, you kind of just um don't get paid for a bit of time, right? You don't go in the negatives. Yeah, that's my second point. It's safe. You just show up to work. You just do what you're told. Um, and yeah. However, I would say there is less room for growth, and I think it's pretty naive to think that if you work in a corporation as an employee, um, you're gonna somehow become the CEO. I feel like that's really, really, really rare because, first of all, for instance, if you're hired as an engineer, right? you don't have the skill set. You have a completely different skill set to uh to like the managers. So that's the one thing. And the second thing is that if there are people above you and see that you're a really talented person, would they really promote you to steal their position, right? Um, I, I don't know. Like I feel like a lot of people will just try to fucking cuck you since you're technically like a threat that could steal their position, right? So um, just because people don't want to lose their own jobs, um, I have a feeling that there will be a lot of cop blocks that try to stop you from getting promoted, and yeah, even if you have the talent, I'd say sometimes it can be really hard to like climb the corporate ladder. And the last thing is, if you think about it, you're worth more than what you're paid, right? So let's say you're getting paid 100,000 a year, $100,000 a year. What does that mean? That means you're bringing in more than $100,000 a year for the company, right? um, Whether it like depending on what kind of skill that you're offering, obviously. So, um, if you're an assembly line worker or if you're just like repair technician, well then you kind of have to work in you kind of have to be employed because a part of what you're worth, like a part of what defines your worth, is the fact that you have access to the equipments that the company's providing you, right? Without those equipments, um, you're maybe not as worth you're maybe not worth as much. But unless, of course, if you're willing to like fork out your own money to buy those equipments and do it yourself. But you get the point. However, if what you're being paid to do is, let's say, like sales, if it's your like sales ability, if it's your like marketing or communication skills, I don't see why not that could be. I don't see why that couldn't be implemented um by yourself for yourself, um because you're getting paid that much, right? But you're worth more. Remember. Okay, so that's the left side of it. On the right hand side, again, businesses. If you don't pay attention to it, like if you don't put work into it, it'll just fail, right? That's what I think. Again, no experience, but um, that's what I could see happening. Um, Not guaranteed money. For business from business standpoint, again, it really depends on what you're actually doing. But if I can see how sometimes you could gain money and sometimes you could fucking literally lose money. Like even if you work full time, you lose money. It's kind of like going to work and giving them money, right? Giving them like 20 bucks an hour just to work there. So that's that. As opposed to just being an employee, right? There's no risk for being an employee. You just show up, do your work. Um, yeah, same thing. High risk, lose money. And the the reason why most business owners own businesses is probably because of this dot point. There's room for growth. Um, you can expand your business. As opposed to the other, right? There's a lot more room for growth for owning a business than for just being an employee. And there's freedom to a certain extent, I guess. You can just kind of do what you want. Again, at the risk of just keep in mind, like kind of refers back to the first dot point. You could fail, you could lose money, but there's technically more freedom in owning a business yourself. Is that it? Yeah, that's it.